Well, hello you bearded bastards, and welcome back once again to Dwarf Fortress, and today we're going to start off on a brand new journey into a world of adventure, a fresh new world of adventure, one we haven't touched before. In fact, right now we're going to gen up a new world to play in. And this time we're not going to have any frips, no frills, no mods, or special things. We're going to go with a completely bog standard world. Medium settings just as the game comes. Gonna gen up a world right now, and this time I'm thinking, you know what I want to do is play a fortress where we focus on defending our fortress with military might. Just our dwarves, weapons, armor, that sort of stuff. No traps, no tricks or anything like that, no gates, doors, walls. I'm kind of sick of that. I want to see if we can defend a fortress using just dwarven might. Now, we're going to need some wiggle room in that whole idea, I think, because, there are some creatures that could pop up and they would just totally screw us up, and it's not going to be fun. A Forgotten Beast with webs could show up, and that would end our entire military, instantly. And, that's boring. I don't really want to do that. So maybe we'll have some siege weapons. How about that? We can have siege weapons and fighting dwarves, and that'll be it. I don't really have any big goals of conquering the world or anything like that. We're just going to settle in a dangerous area and wait for the enemies to come to us. Having a look at the world we are in, this is Kruggsmash, the Infinite Domain. And right now we're in the 4th Age of Legends. It seems to be going back and forth between Legends and Myth. Very interesting. Yeah, we're going to let this go for a second. And that's going to do it right there. We're in the 4th Age of Legends right now, year 243. Zooming out quite a bit, you can see the world in its entirety. It seems to be a mess of interconnected continents. A lot of land bridges. Very cool. Yeah, I can dig that for sure. Let's do it up. Now we're going to start playing Dwarf Fortress mode. Also, I'll take the time to note that if you want to skip all this setup part right here, I'll put a timestamp in the description below. I think this part's really fun though. But to each their own. Now then, okay, let's get a look at our world here. And keep in mind that our first thing that we're going to want is war. So I'm going to open up that neighbors tab.
The Attic of Horns, founded 423 years ago at the dawning of the First Age of Myth, was a culture founded by the Dwarves. It stood as a bulwark against its foes, an unrelenting wall of cultural integrity that protected its people from the many dangers of the Infinite Domain. Though, for as strong as it stood against its enemies, none could have guessed that its greatest foe would come from within.
First thing that we're going to want is war. So I'm going to open up that neighbors tab and just have a little look around. Actually, that place right there was pretty good. There's a tower, there was some goblins. You know what? Actually, we're gonna want a place with just a lot of neighbors in general, just so we have the potential of a whole bunch of wars. Wars with the humans, wars with the elves. Actually, it doesn't really matter all that much where we start. I mean, we could send out groups and incite a little bit of trouble. Still, I think it would be best if we start out in a place with a lot of angry neighbors. And you know what? That being said, actually, yes, right here, perfect. We have some angry goblins, some angry necromancers, and some other necromancers we're at war with already. Okay, cool. Now let's refine this search a little bit. Take a look at this surrounding area. If we're gonna be at war, then we need some access to metals. We need good metals too. I'm not too interested in dicking around with copper and stuff like usual. I want some steel, is what I want, and I don't think we're gonna get it from that place. Gonna keep looking here. Well, okay, this spot up here looks very promising. It's in the far north, in the Sea of Courtesy. I'm not too sure what's going on with the area exactly, but it looks like we have flux stone, deep metal, shallow metals, so at least 3 different kinds of metal. The downsides are that this area is freezing, there's no trees, no vegetation, the area is haunted, and unfortunately we only have access to goblins from this location, which isn't stellar. Having a look over here though, this is a good place. The Null Prairies, a temperate savanna. Sparse trees, moderate vegetation. We're in the untamed wilds, so we could see animal people, always a plus. Also we have clay, at least 4 different kinds of metal, and flux stone. Additionally, we have access to all kinds of different people, including some angry goblins and an angry tower of necromancers, which looks to be right next door actually. Excellent. Okay, I am liking that. Whoa. Just a couple spaces to the north here, and we can make our fortress overlap this evil freshwater lake. I like that a lot. Okay, let's do it. This is a perfect place. Evil freshwater lake, and we have a bunch of angry neighbors. Let's do it. Gonna prepare for the journey carefully, too, of course. Got it. As for our items, we don't need a lot of this stuff. Wooden items I almost always get rid of. I would like for us to start out with some dogs. Gonna need all the help we can get. Some more picks isn't going to hurt anything. It'd be kind of nice if we can get everybody mining straight off the bat so we can get a good supply of metal. And as for our dwarves, gonna need at least one good armorsmith and a really good weaponsmith too. In fact, you know what? Gonna have a couple of good weaponsmiths and armorsmiths, just in case we don't have any good migrants show up. That's really gonna help us out. And that's pretty much gonna be it for our points. And so for the rest, I'm gonna get us some silk cloth and some wool, just in case someone has to make an artifact. It'll save them. Okay, now the fort's name. Gonna go pretty random with it. Gonna want to be something properly dwarven, something that exudes combat and war. Something different than usual too. Normally I go with murder or kill or something like that. Ah yes, there we have it. Thestarsakzul, Crimsontrumpets. Our group's name will be the Crimsontrumpets, and our symbol. Okay, we'll have an atup, a small handheld straight wooden horn. It's a type of instrument, kind of like a trumpet, I guess. And we'll also have a dwarf. And I like to have the dwarf like playing this atup, but that's not really, I don't see anything here. So we'll have the dwarf embracing the atup, and the atup is screaming. Gets the point across.
The atup, an instrument whose name means robust in the human tongue from which it originated, is thought to have been named such after older, more primitive wind instruments. The atup of the current day is not known to have a particularly robust sound at all, but instead has a rather wispy sound that, nevertheless, is highly prized by the dwarves of the Attic of Horns. Somehow, the creation of these instruments has escaped even the keen ability of the dwarves, who value these human-made instruments highly.
Excellent. Okay, I think we're done here. And so, dwarves, let's embark. To Thestarsakzul, Crimsontrumpets. Strike the earth. Ah yes, and here we go. Our quaint little place out here in the Null Prairies. Looking pretty green, pretty sparse, but I think it's gonna work out just fine. Now we'll zoom out a bit and get a lay of the land. What a nice looking location. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. We can see the lake up to the north and the west, and you can also see that brook that passes by too. We'll have to make a bridge at some point. But yeah, looks like a nice little place for sure. That being said, gotta keep in mind there's an evil aura about this lake here, so until we know what we're working with, we have to keep on the lookout for some pretty bad stuff. Walking corpses and evil clouds, poison rain, that sort of stuff. But well, looks like at the moment all we have in the area are some river otters, as well as some long-nosed gar and an osprey. Well, that's not too bad at all, which is very good, because this time we do have some fairly lofty ambitions, and this will give us some time to work in peace. Now, before we set out to this new location here out in the Null Prairies, we actually went around the mountain homes and asked for some advice, just from some of the local dwarves there, as well as the elders and various advisors. Trying to make a glorious place here, so it's best if we work on the advice of our kin. Now, there was some mention of us making a pyramidal structure with ballistas and other siege weapons poking out at various levels, and of course a lovely lava moat to go along with that. Not a bad idea for sure. Siege weaponry is notoriously difficult to use effectively, so I'm not too sure how that would work, but it's something to keep in mind. I do like the idea of making some sort of a pyramid, and lava of course. Gonna want to do a lot of forging here, so lava would be for the best. We're gonna have to try to get a hold of some. And in keeping with our idea of defending the fortress through the use of dwarven might, there was a suggestion of using a giant arena for fortress defense. We could funnel attackers through the arena and it would serve a dual purpose, both defense and entertainment. Adding on to that, somebody mentioned that we could engrave all the walls of the arena, make a pattern on the floor with the group symbol, and also put taverns up above so that the audience can get some nice food and drink while combatants are getting graphically murdered. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? Somebody else had mentioned making long corridors with holes in the ceiling where we could dump down all kinds of stuff. Rocks, rotten food, corpses, cats, livestock, all kinds of stuff. Not a bad idea, I don't think. It's certainly something to take on board. We'll see how that goes. And of course we also had a suggestion of making the fort very, very deep underground, possibly down in the caverns, I guess. If we're gonna get lava, that's a very good idea though. So yeah, I'm thinking we should maybe head to the third cavern layer, far, far, far below underground. That'd be a nice challenging location. And yeah, lava. I like that. I think that's what we'll go for. Definitely. And so the first thing we're going to want to do is sort out our dwarves. Just a quick overview. We have our shield makers. They have the ones who make armor. Then we have the log takers, woodcutters and carpenters. Then of course we have the blade makers and ground breakers, weaponsmiths and miners. And then of course we have Crimsontrumpets fort waker, Dastat, our current leader. But she also has great skill as a blade maker, and for now she's going to be a ground breaker as well, just because we got to get some stuff done right away. Log taking and ground breaking are going to be our top priorities. Let's get to it, dwarves.
Ground breakers, log takers, roast bakers, bush shakers, field breakers, soul wakers, the list goes on and on. The Attic of Horns is well known for its rich history of elaborate alliteration, which the dwarves, despite the complaints of those that have to deal with them, stubbornly cling to as a proud part of their cultural identity. To live a rhyme is to live inspired, is a favorite quote of the dwarves, even through their recent societal shift.
First things first, as we just said, gonna want to start cutting down trees, and we're also gonna start tunneling downwards. A whole heck of a long way, too. Shouldn't be much of a problem, although we have discovered a light aquifer already. We knew it was here, so it's not gonna throw too much of a wrench in the works. I have a feeling it's gonna make this tunnel a bit damp in the future, though. A little messy, but yeah, it's fine. Oh, and hey, that's something. Remember, we have access to at least 4 different types of metal in this area, and we just discovered one. It is native silver. Pretty excellent. We'll be able to make some good trade goods, and at least we'll be able to make some hammers, too. Or maces. No armor, though, yet. Oh, ooh. And we have discovered garnierite, too. Another type of ore that'll give us a nickel. Not great. Oh, but hey, would you look at that? We just discovered our first cavern lair. Having a look here, we could see a thick knot of corridors, tangled with mushroom trees and moss, fungus, whole bunch of water, whole bunch of gems, ore clusters. Ooh. Okay, yeah, we have struck native gold. Kind of like silver, it's expensive, but not going to be able to do too much with it, really, in terms of weaponry or armor. Yikes. Okay, so, I mean, that's 3 different kinds of metal already. Who knows, we could still get lucky. I will tell you what though, Dastat, our fort waker, probably feels a bit discouraged now at this point. She tends to get that way, even though she normally feels pretty confident. Yeah, certainly couldn't blame her, but again, I'm sure things will improve before too long. Oh look, that's neat. It has started raining, goblin blood, over here on the lake. Well, I suppose if that's the worst of it over there, then we can count ourselves lucky. I'm sure we'll have plenty of stuff to fight anyways without having to deal with zombies or evil clouds. Just a little goblin blood. We can handle that. Anyways, back to work down here in the caverns. We have to try to come up with a way to carve a satisfying tunnel to our new home. And I think we'll do it like this right here. Kind of intersecting some of these ragged cracks that are heading through the earth. And ended up making a bridge down here across this big gap. Wouldn't that be cool? I think that'd be cool. Seems like a big pain in the ass, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But, it'll be worth it. It's fine, don't worry about it. Oh, and you know what? Actually, I just noticed something else down here out in the caverns. I only just caught the briefest glimpse of them, but we had some amphibian people out here, a little tribe of them. That is fascinating. I think they've run into some trouble, though. Oh yeah, there was one, just for a half second. They seemed wounded. Not too sure what their deal is exactly. We're gonna leave them be for now, but just making note of it. They might be dead soon from the sounds of it, but I guess we'll see what happens. Looking over here, our ground breakers are taking a different kind of break as we make some rock blocks to start work on that bridge. We're gonna have to do that if we want to continue southward. And up on the surface, you can see our log takers making some nice tables and chairs and some beds too. I think we're gonna make temporary quarters in that tunnel right there, just because it's nice and spacious. Gotta do what you gotta do. Crimsontrumpets is off to a kind of a rough start, a slow start. but it's fine. Right now it's the 22nd of Slate, mid-spring, so actually, you know what? It's still pretty early in the year. Not too bad. Keep it up, dwarves. Looking back down in the bridge tunnel, I think we've come up with a little plan for our residence. Just gonna carve a chamber off to the side like this. This is where we'll stay for now. Just one big common room. We'll get some beds in here, some tables, chairs, maybe a couple stockpiles, some food would be nice, sure. It'll be crude, definitely, but again, you gotta do what you gotta do. And there we go. Yeah, that's looking much better, isn't it? We have a nice dining room / meeting hall and a bunch of beds just set up around the edges. All wooden furniture for the time being, but that's fine. Gets the job done well enough. I've assigned each of the beds to a dwarf too, so that we all technically have our own property now. It'll help prevent people from getting too upset about having to sleep in one big common room, which doesn't make any sense because that's exactly what this is, but at least each dwarf has their own bed now.
Dwarves, as a rule, are prone to a number of societal idiosyncrasies that greatly bother some other cultures of the infinite domain. For example, personal space. A dwarf would not be terribly perturbed by owning a bed directly next to a fellow fortmate's own. The same goes for sleeping or even making love with a partner in said bed. These things do not concern a dwarf. Though, tell dwarves to sleep in a communal room with unassigned beds, and a fortress's population is likely to start rebelling in fairly short order.
Oh boy, just passed into summer, the spring is now behind us. Wish I could say the same for those spring showers, but still in full swing. Anyways, I'd say it's a pretty productive season, that's for sure. Gotta keep at it though, dwarves. And also have to keep in mind that if something happens, some beast attacks or anything like that, then we have to be able to defend ourselves. I would start some of them training right now, but we don't yet have any weapons to speak of. Might be foolish. Maybe we should get straight to work on that actually, before going any farther even. Damn it, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, what we're gonna do is make a bunch of wood burners and smelters up here on the surface. We should at least have weapons for all of our dwarves. And maybe we can make some extra to trade too, that'd be excellent. Fall is right around the corner. Oh, would you have a look here though? We have some new migrants already. Wonderful. We could use the help, that's for sure. Just hope you're not expecting the most well-appointed quarters. We're working on it. Also noting they're being led by this dwarf here, Lorbam, a blood taper. Quite a skilled blood taper too. Yeah, they seem to have a bunch of appropriate skills, that's for sure. Surgery, bone setting. Oh, and here's another one too, Aiden, who's an excellent diagnostician.
While one might think a surgeon would benefit greatly from the use of precision instruments of steel, the dwarves often shun such unnecessary items. After all, who has the time to fumble around with tools in times of emergency? Such luxuries are made doubly unnecessary when considering how well cleaned injuries often are, especially after judicious application of dwarf-made soap.
Well, that's wonderful. 2 doctors straight off the bat. Just what we're going to need, because combat is sure to not be too far off, especially when we have some maces underway, some silver maces. Really excited about them too. They're going to be excellent weapons, and they're going to be double excellent to trade, that's for sure, extremely valuable. So we're trying to pump out as many as we can. And speaking of trade, actually, if you have a look down here, you can see a trade depot we're setting up in this wide corridor. Yeah, we're certainly making ourselves at home here. It is a quaint place, but it is our place. Just having a look over here at our metalsmith's forge, you can see some silver maces all prepared. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them right now. Okay, that's not too bad. We even have some pretty high quality ones too. Our blade makers are doing the trick already. And since we have some weapons, we should make up a squad too. And we'll call this squad the Silver Clubs, due to their weaponry. And in this squad, we're gonna put Dastot, the Fort Waker, as the leader. Only appropriate. And the other spots, we're just gonna put in just a random assortment pretty much. Yeah, there we go. 10 dwarves. All kinds of dwarves too. Some of them starting dwarves, some new migrants. Most of them do not have any combat skill though. Might be a problem, but whatever. Yeah, we'll just make up a few more maces and then we'll get them rolling. We have noticed some dangerous creatures about. Out here on the prairie, for example, we have a giant adder. Something like that could give a civilian some serious trouble. Could easily kill them, I'm thinking. Okay, and there we have them. 10 armed dwarves. No armor, yeah, of course, remember. But we at least have weapons. And so... that adder's still creeping around up here. Looks to be hanging around by the brook. Yeah, we should take care of that. Quickly. Let's get to it, dwarves. And they're off. Good luck to you, Silver Clubs. You can do it. Okay, here we go. Following the snake, and our warriors are approaching. Here they go. This is going to be pretty dangerous, actually. One bite from that thing's really going to screw up a dwarf. Okay, they're fighting it. They're beating the hell out of it. I can see some wounds already. Snake teeth. The creature is wounded. And it looks like they killed it. Okay, cool. But we do have one seriously wounded dwarf here on the ground, too. And it looks like Minka, our coal baker, one of the new migrants. She must have gotten bit. Her left hand is cut open, blistered, and swollen with blood. Oh, that's not good. I don't know how this venom's gonna react. But actually, I'm noticing now too, Aiden, the blood taper, our chief blood taper, she looks to have been bitten as well. Her left hand is also blistered and swollen, and she's also feeling terribly nauseous. I'm not sure if that's due to the venom or what exactly. We'll keep an eye on her. For now though, we have to get Minka to the hospital. Oh, but it looks like she's off on her own accord. Okay, that's gotta be a good sign, right? Off with you, get to the hospital. We'll get you taken care of. Having a look back up here to the prairie, we made a butcher's workshop and we actually took care of that adder already. Got some nice meat from it. One of the benefits of having some strong dwarves like this. We're not gonna have any problem getting food. Hey, and would you look at that? Looking down here, those beds are empty. I didn't mention it, but we had those wounded dwarves down here in hospital beds. No different than normal beds, really. So they were in those beds, and they were putting off a horrible stink. Their wounds had begun to fester badly. I was pretty sure they weren't going to survive, but they're not here right now, and I know they didn't die either. So that means they're up and about, all taken care of. Yeah, having a look at Minka here, the one that was very badly wounded, they don't seem to have suffered any terrible injuries. Their ability to grasp is somewhat impaired, but other than that, not seeing any infection or anything. Looks like Lorban was able to excise the rotten tissue from their left hand, cleaned it up with some pond water, and there you go. Wonderful. Back up and about. Our first victory. The first of many. All made in the name of our noble king.
Ustra Pedudzuda, the Judicious, Attic Helper, Bear Killer, Siegebreaker, the King of the Attic of Horns. The earliest reports of this mysterious individual state that he was once a simple thread spinner from no great place to speak of, but having wriggled his way through society's ranks, eventually the pragmatic ruler was able to lead a bloodless coup that toppled the government of the Attic of Horns, and for over 40 years the dwarves there have lived under his ever-shrewd reign. He stands as living symbol of how far an individual may rise given proper thought to their circumstances. Praise be to the good King Ustra.
Okay, guess that's gonna wrap up the episode for now. And so now we're gonna be talking about some behind the scenes things. I like to do this just to separate the whole narrative thing from the more meta gamey talk. At least somewhat anyways. And it also gives me a space to talk about some other strange happenings in the game, like glitches, that sort of thing. And so yeah, that's what this segment will be for at the end of these episodes. Now then, let's see. Yeah, I really wanted to start this fortress here just because, well, I wanted to take advantage of there's been some updates to the stress system in Dwarf Fortress so that hopefully we can fight enemies now. Like a siege should show up and we should be able to fight it off with Dwarven might, which is something I haven't done in a long time. And so with this fortress, I'm really going to try to push that to the limit. Pretty excited for it too. That being said, I mean, this might end up being a very short fortress if it doesn't go very well. So we'll see what happens. Play it by ear. Don't get too attached either, I'm thinking. Although I'm saying that, and I'm already pretty attached, if I'm going to be frank. More the lore of this world. I did a bit more world building bits in this episode too, you probably noticed. Just trying to justify some of the decisions made by the dwarves, trying to make sense of what they do, you know? Like dwarven surgeons don't use scalpels. They just go in there with their hands and possibly teeth. Not something I really want to think about. And yet, I do, is the thing, I guess. I like to get into these worlds, but there's so many weird little gamey things just built into the game that you have to be able to justify them somehow, right? And I thought it'd be fun to try to do that. At least somewhat. Something I noticed that was a bit strange is that Atup, the instrument that's part of our symbol. I just kind of picked it because it was a horn, but then afterwards I realized that it's not available to our dwarves. So why would they put it on their symbol, right? That list of things that you can put as your symbol includes every single item that can be found in this world. Not necessarily just ones dwarves would have access to. I wasn't thinking about that. So now I'm trying to justify why they would have it as their symbol, right? It's kind of interesting to think about. Makes the world feel a bit more alive to me. Just kind of the mingling of roleplay bits and game bits. I like it. Big fan. Oh, I thought that was really cool too with Ustra, our king, the goblin. Just looking through our lore, I wanted to see how he came to power. And I've seen kings just kind of sprout up in Legends mode before. Like a king will be killed by some stupid crap and another king will just pop up out of the blue. But this one here, Ustra, it actually states that he somehow toppled the government and took control, which I love. You could see too, like the lead up to it, the guy is very tricky. He was able to get all kinds of little allies and stuff and kind of wriggle his way into power. And that being said, like the dwarves don't hate the guy either. Like there's nothing in the game that states that dwarves hate the state of their government, you know? Like the dwarves come onto the map and they might have a thought that states that they don't like the current weather or the fact that they just saw some dead animal, but they don't have anything that says they hate this leader. In fact, they probably like him more than anything, or at least feel neutral. So I guess we're just gonna work with that. The dwarves are okay with their king, the goblin, Ustra. Pidadsudem, which means attic helped, by the way, which I thought was very weird because it's like, we're the attic of horns, and he's Ustra attic helped. Dwarf Fortress, gotta love when things come together. Anyways, that's enough rambling for now. My bearded bastards, I hope you enjoyed this, and I really hope you're excited for more Thestarsakzul, Crimsontrumpets, because we're gonna see how long we can keep this going. And until next time, my bearded bastards,